Now we're going to have a look at the clipboard preferences. And just in case you're not aware of what the clipboard is, you can think of it as a temporary holding area in your operating system. Throughout this course, you'll see me copying and pasting artwork around the stage in Flash. I'll usually do this using the Edit menu. You can also cut artwork, and that removes the original. Then you can use one of the flavors of paste to bring it back in. And notice that most of these have associated keyboard shortcuts as well. But you're not limited to pasting objects just within Flash. You can also paste objects to other applications and vice versa. And the clipboard preferences control what happens to your artwork when it sits on the clipboard. Now, some of these options are different between Windows and Macintosh operating systems. So we're going to look at the Windows clipboard first, and then at the end of this lesson we're going to have a look at the Macintosh clipboard. So starting with Windows, Windows works with bitmaps. So our first option is color depth. By default, this is set to match screen. And this corresponds to the color depth that you currently have set on the desktop. But you can specify a color depth here, even including alpha, which is transparency. Next we have resolution, and again, by default this is set to screen. Screen is usually 72 dpi, but if you like to turn this up for, say, printing, you can. And next we have a size limit. If you have a limited amount of RAM memory in your machine, you may find that copying and pasting large items tends to slow your machine down or even lock it up, and you can adjust the size limit here. And we have smoothing as well, which we're going to cover a little bit later on in this course when we're working with bitmap images. Moving on, next we have gradient quality, and this primarily applies to artwork that you're pasting outside of Flash. By default this is normal, but we have a few more options. You can turn it off completely, or if you want to keep the best quality in your artwork, turn this to best. And finally we have freehand text. This applies to the Macromedia program Freehand. You can move text back and forth between Flash and Freehand, but if you still want that text to remain editable, make sure that this is selected, Maintain as Blocks. Okay, that's it for the PC. Let's go have a look at the Mac. The Mac preferences are located in a little bit of a different location. Look under the Flash menu. Mine is Professional, but yours may be Basic. And choose Preferences. Go to the clipboard, and instead of bitmap, we now have PICT, P-I-C-T. Our first option here is Type. By default, this is set to Objects. In the PICT format, we can export items that we copied to the clipboard as individual objects. You can work on them separately later. Or we can export as a bitmap, again with the color depth. Next we have a resolution, and this is exactly the same as the resolution in the Windows version, but we also have an include PostScript option. Leave this off unless you're exporting for printing. Next we have the same gradient quality and our freehand text Maintain as Block setting. And that's it for the clipboard preferences in Flash 8.